Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hugnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. It's a big week in herd athletics. We're in the throes of SBC tournaments and SBC championships and a number of our varsity sports. And we've got a lot of other news that's just circling around. It is the portal season until it is not the portal season. And we're going to talk about a good bit of that. It's really good to be back with you guys again this week and talk about the herd. I really, really do miss this quite a bit. And the more you're away from it, this is something that Russ doesn't have to deal with. The more you're away from it, the more you miss it. Yeah. So it's one of those double-edged sword things, right? Because I don't get to do this all the time anymore for now. It's looking like that's going to change here pretty soon. We'll have news on that front here that I'll be able to share coming up probably within the next couple of months. I don't think it's going to be a weekly thing, but what I'm getting at is it's a double-edged sword. You don't get to do it all the time, but when you do get to do it, man, it really lights the fire once again. So good to be back with you, my friend, my brother, and being able to talk some herd sports.
Absolutely, man. Jed does a killer job, and I enjoy doing that with him, doing the show with you and everything. But it's always good to do what we started out doing, where 5 things around the herd and all that with you as this show started. So
yeah, let me get a quick unbelievable. Like, I don't know why that mirrors my background. I hate that. So let's get everything looking the right way and reading the right way before we get into this episode. But before we do, let's get a quick word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
That's right. Been with us since day 0, as we say. Here we are. If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
Well, let's do this. I am stoked and pumped to talk about some things. Always happy to give a shout out to our buddies at Ignite.link, and you mentioned Jed and the whole crew over there that do a fantastic job. And I'm just going to say this since, I don't get to do this very often for now, and everybody knows that by this point, but I got to give a shout out to those guys. If you or your business is in need of IT services, IT management services, there's really nobody better in the Huntington tri-state area to call than Ignite.link. And we drive this point home all the time. There's nobody that herd fans would rather do business with than other herd fans. And Ignite.link is a locally owned and operated business right over there on 9th Street Plaza. You cannot miss it. It's easy to find. And Jed and the whole crew over there are herd alums. Mm-hmm. So if you are thinking, maybe it's time for a change, I'm not really happy with what I got going on, or maybe you are happy and just maybe there's a better alternative out there. Like I said, there's really nobody better than Ignite.link.
Maybe you don't even have one at all, but you don't realize that you actually do need one. Data backup and everything. It's very, very important right now.
Yeah, I think we all know at this stage in the game that the world revolves around information and information online, and there are a lot of people out there with prying eyes and sticky fingers that want to get a hold of that sensitive data. So if you think, man, my business isn't big enough, I don't need that kind of stuff. Well, like Jed has said many, many times, if your network goes down, does your business go down as well? And if the answer to that is yes, you probably need to call Ignite.link. So Russ, on that front, how about at least 5 things that every herd fan needs to know this week?
And now here are at least 5 things every herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Ignite.link, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. Okay, D, we're actually going to double it up, and we have 10 things every herd fan needs to know this week, and we're going to start off with a couple of records in baseball. So first, Elijah Vogelsong is now the Marshall Baseball single-season record holder for walks with 44. on the season, has plenty of time this weekend and next weekend and whatever they do in the postseason to expand on that. And AJ Havrilla has now tied that single season record for sacrifice flies with 9, and he gets a chance now to make that solely his.
I think this is a neat thing. First, I got to say out of the gate, you're giving me my money's worth. 2 for 1 special here for the things with me sitting in the seat. I appreciate that. But this is another one of those cool things, right? We saw the doubles record get set and reset in consecutive seasons by O&Ers, and now it's Elijah Vogelsong and AJ Havrilla setting program records. This is all part of that. What do you want to call that? I don't know what the right word to accurately describe herd baseball is, because I tend to just say it's a renaissance, but it's not a renaissance, right? This is a
I've got a word.
What is it?
An awakening.
Okay, that's a good one. This is an awakening of herd baseball under Greg Beals and this staff. I love that. That's a very good term, because we're seeing a lot of exciting baseball. We're seeing some new things that herd baseball fans haven't either A, seen before, or B, seen in a really long time. And we're seeing some of those things consistently. And, you might be sitting at home going, okay, big deal. It's a sack fly record. Well, if you've ever played baseball, those tend to be pretty important at times, especially in close games. And herd finds themselves in a lot of nip and tuck games, and they've been on the wrong side of some of those. So you think, a sack fly here or a sack fly there might have won you that ball game. So you really start to understand how important things like that can be. And you've said many, many times, usually when we were talking about softball teams of the past, it's not so much about batting average for you personally. It's about just getting on base. And a walk is as good as a hit in certain situations. It's about getting a base runner on. So that's what it's all about, getting guys on base so the guys have opportunity to drive guys in, score runs, win games. It's really not that hard of a concept. So I'll take any of this performance, right? I'll take any of it, because we've seen great pitching in recent years. We saw some guys come out of, let's be honest, they came out of nowhere because they were youngsters on the rotation this year and pitched really well. And now you're seeing program records from Vogelsong and Havrilla, the 4th program record in as many seasons. Well, 4th record in 3 seasons, really. So I think this is what the kids would say, trending in the right direction, right?
Yeah, and I don't care what record it is. If it's a record, it's a record. And, no one has done it before. These two have done this. So pretty daggone cool. And I think that it's even cooler. A sacrifice fly is cool that it scores a run most of the time. The other times, the majority of the time, it's someone advancing from second to third, and you can score from third. So much easier than scoring from second. But it doesn't get people up off their seats as much as, say, a 3-run home run, right?
Yeah.
But you look at this weekend and next weekend, especially if, going in and it's at home, he's still tied for the record. All of a sudden, an opportunity for a sack fly comes up, and that is intriguing as a fan, that's there watching. It's just another little element in baseball. I love the game. I love the game. I know you love the game. And that's just one more little wrinkle to watch for, is being able to not just be tied for the record, but to put yourself up there in sole possession of it.
Yeah, and as we go into the second thing, last note for me on this particular topic is you're talking about to enter championship tournament play, right? And how big every single run is for every single team that plays. It's not just a Marshall exclusive thing. So when runs are at a premium, you're going to take them any way you can get them. Any way you can get them. And we've seen the herd play small ball and score runs, and the long ball has scored for the herd this year. So this is a team that can manufacture runs and just batter the hell out of the baseball to get runs on the board too. And like I said, when it's tournament time, you'll take them any way you can get them.
Absolutely. We're going to stick with the Diamond Sports for these next couple. And number 2 is Diamond Leslie was named to the Sun Belt Conference first team, and Haley Adkins named to the Sun Belt Conference second team in softball.
Yep. I know there's some more news later about softball. We'll talk about that. What a huge season this year for those two, and particularly Diamond Leslie, freshman outfielder from Alpharetta, Georgia, comes in and becomes a first-team All Sun Belt Conference selection. She just had a really great year at the plate and defensively on the Bates pass. What a great all-around player, and a freshman. Let me say that again, a freshman. You know, it's like you talked about this. We talked about this a couple of months ago or weeks ago. The freshman phenoms, as it were, and of course, Diamond's got to be one of those. And she's not the only one on that Herd softball team. She just happened to be named the first team All Sun Belt Conference player. Morgan Zirkle, Sid McKinney, Allie Harrell, and that staff have brought in a really, really solid crop of young players. I'm not just saying freshmen because sophomore, you know, also all conference player, in-state gal from Hamlin, like Haley Adkins. So it's freshmen, sophomores, and you got some big-time power that's going to be leaving the lineup this year. You know, they've played their last games, and I'm going to save what, you know, about that later, but man, what a great young nucleus of players. I mean,
yeah. And even though it's a redshirt freshman, Diamond was a true freshman, but we cannot leave out Chandler Hoskins. What she did in the outfield and at the plate this year as well was some timely hitting and everything. So you're right. Good young base that we're seeing come up. For them to get these awards, my initial knee-jerk reaction was, whoa, we should have some more. But when you start looking, man, it comes down to position and you know, it's not just, hey, let's throw out the best 9 or 10 for the first team, and you know, it's position by position. And you start looking, there are some monster seasons at other positions that just made it to where you're like, I can see why. I mean, you know, your offensive player of the year was a first baseman, and we know Riley Lucas had a really good year, 15 home runs and everything, top 4 maybe in the conference. But the first baseman at Texas State just, I mean, had a ridiculous year. So, you know, it's those sort of things. The knee-jerk reaction was, we're second. Shouldn't we have had some more? But I see the argument for each and every one. And if we would have had the seasons that some of these others had and them be below, I would have been upset as well. So,
okay, I'll yield to that, right? But
yeah,
I'm still going to say the thing that most fans, I think, that follow softball in the Marshall fans, they still think there's a certain level of gatekeeping that's going on with Sun Belt softball, and you can't say that they're wrong.
I can't say they're wrong.
You can't say they're fully right, but you also can't say they're wrong. You know, I think that the old guard still is holding on to certain aspects of this sport in this conference, and for some reason, like you just haven't been here long enough, you know. So whatever.
I think a couple of things rang true when I started looking at the stats of everybody that got these first team, second team of the year, those sort of things. Like, you know, I started thinking immediately, like, if Diamond Leslie wasn't the freshman of the year, what did the freshman of the year do? And then I started looking, and in the blurb, it said, it highlighted that it was about conference matchups, you know, like the stats in conference. And you start looking, and they had a really good in conference thing. And that seems like it happened the last couple of years of they were focusing on what you did in conference. So I don't necessarily agree with all of that, because if you go to Oklahoma and you go to all these other places, I think you should be rewarded for how you played against those teams.
Yeah.
If you are going up against Division III opponents, I'm just throwing something out here, but lower level, bad winning percentage, I think that should be taken into consideration if you're ranking 600 against that competition and not as well in conference. So I think that should be taken into consideration.
Well, we got raked over the coals for that very argument a few years ago, you know, when the Herd softball program set a single season wins record, and they were like, everybody was like, you all didn't play anybody. You're not that good. And still that team went to the championship game and down to the very last out in a one-run game.
One run.
And, disproved that argument. So some of those powers that be or vocal fans or whoever it was, rake the herd over the coals for that argument. And then when you do play top tier opponents and really bolster, remember we talked about how rough the schedule was this year and how Morgan Zirkle's approach to scheduling was far different than what we'd seen before. This was going to be a more battle-tested team. They were going to take some more losses, but they were going to play tougher opponents. Well, now it's like, but we're really only looking at what you're doing against Sunbelt teams. So, you can't have it both ways. Of course, if you're making the decisions and there's nobody to check you on it, you can have it both ways. But the optics don't look very good when it appears that way.
The other major thing that came across to me was if you are second in the conference and you're a couple of plays away from getting the outright overall number 1 seed. The other thing that stood out to me was how much of a team effort it was, that you don't have like the player of the year to get to be second. You don't have the pitcher of the year to get to be second seed and almost first seed. It was that we had a really good team that all played and all contributed. And that kind of stood out to me. And I don't know if that's some kind of simplistic way to justify us only having 2 on the first and second teams, but at least that's something that I took from it that I think is positive. It's like, well, yeah, but we weren't a one-person team. We were a team.
Yes, it's not a top-heavy talent team. You needed every bat in the lineup, and the depth at pitching went pretty deep this year, and you needed all of it to be a number 2. That's a very well-rounded team concept team that was built to operate as a team. Now it helps that you have some superstar players and. We had plenty, but I get what you're saying, and I tend to agree with that too.
All right, number 3, and this is a special thing that we love to talk about every year, but Bub Faringa was the 2025 recipient of the Warrior Award for Marshall Softball.
Big deal. That's a big deal. That's the herd, the Marcos aside, and all the kind of like official athletic department awards. This is a program award. So I feel quite comfortable saying this is the most prestigious award that Herd Softball awards annually. And it should be, for all the right reasons. And, I could think of few better, if any better, and some like right there on the same playing field with Bub to be in the serious running for this. But could you really argue otherwise? What a great player that Bub Faringa has been for Herd Softball for 3 years, 4 years, as long as we've been doing this show, in the circle, in the field, at the plate, wherever, whatever, just kind of the do it all. I got you. What do you need, coach? I'll do it for you type player. And golly, man, that she's one that is I don't know, man. Like, I feel like she's very kind of Marshall to the core, It's like I'm not the superstar grabbing all the headlines across the conference, but I'm the player that you can freaking count on game in and game out. I'll do the dirty work. I am the team concept player. Like, I love I have loved watching her growth and development as a player and as a personality since we started doing this show.
Yeah, and for anyone that doesn't know, the Warrior Award was named after Emily Cooper, who 1 year after she finished as a softball player here at Marshall and graduated, she passed away in a car accident. And everyone, when they were doing like superlatives to come up with like one word to describe each player or whatever, Emily Cooper's was Warrior. So they created an award to honor her and called it the Warrior Award. And I have a quote here about Bub from Coach Zirkle, and this was in the Herald Dispatch. And I'd just like to read that for anybody that didn't see this short quote. She's just a grinder from the offensive side to being in the circle. There's been countless times that she's carried the team on her back. She's earned it. She lives right. She's a great teammate. She works hard. It's awesome to see her have that moment and get that award.
Yeah. He's like, Coach sees it every day. So she has far more intimate knowledge of Bub the player and Bub the person than we do. We see the fan perspective, and we might be a little bit closer than the average fan just because of how closely we follow this program and have a relationship with that program and the parents and, all that goes into it. But see, she's right. Like, we see the same things that Coach sees. She just gets to see it every single day and far more consistently than we do. So what I'm seeing is what she's seeing. So that comes through. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. She's just that shines right through to Herd fans, right to the forefront of what is so good about this softball program. Bub Faringa, man, player for the ages, like, just awesome. I absolutely love everything about her. Her parents are awesome. First of all, like the personality, you remember even way back when we were first doing this show and we were getting to know the previous coaching staff, and we used to love the pregame intro, right?
Oh,
and we, and we talked. Remember, we talked to some of the girls. We did that mid-season feature one time, and we were talking about that. And hers was like the shotgun thing, and they were like, "Boy, that just fits her personality and everything." And I was like, "Man, this is so awesome." So I'm really happy for her, man.
This next one, number 4, it's blew my mind, man. And Huntington native and former Marshall cross country athlete Dan Green just broke the Cocodona 250. It's actually 256.5 miles, but they call it the Cocodona 250 ultra marathon. And he broke that record in 58 hours, 47 minutes, and 18 seconds. But before I pass it over to you to talk about this, would you care to guess, if you don't know, how much he broke the record by?
No, I have no idea. First of all, I have no idea how much he broke the record by.
More than an hour. So, I mean, it gets ridiculous. I mean, one, that someone would run 256.5 miles.
Yeah.
I always say about a regular marathon, I've not ran that in my life, 26.1 miles. But actually, Coach Ward in basketball.
Cumulatively.
Yeah. I think Coach Ward in basketball had me run a marathon one day. But anyway, 256.5 miles in 58 hours, 47 minutes, and 18 seconds.
So this is a little funny anecdote story. We were like just completely unrelated to this. My son was talking to me about this race that they're having signups for. He's in the Army and currently now he's stationed at Fort Bragg. So he's in North Carolina, and he said at Fort Bragg they're pushing the signups for this 100-mile. I don't know if it's a race. It might be a race or whatever, but it's like they got 3 days to do it, and he was like, why would anybody do that? I said, well, what do you get for it? He was like, nothing. You don't get anything for doing it. It's just like you sign up and do it, and just to prove you can do it. And so we were talking about that, and he was talking about like, who would want to just walk that far or hike that far or whatever? And I was telling him about Caleb Bowen and doing the 100-mile race and all that kind of stuff, and he was like, that's crazy to me. And then a day ago, yesterday, day before yesterday, whenever this came out, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting there on the couch and my wife happened to be FaceTiming him. And I was like, listen to this. And they both fell out of their seats, as did I, right? Because who expects a 250-mile race in 58 hours or 56 hours, whatever it was? I can't remember just right now. That's insane to me.
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane to me. I didn't know that things like that existed in the world.
and why they exist, but not trying to crap on his accomplishment because that's great.
Crazy.
But for guys like me and you that are not runners, let me put this into a little bit of perspective, because I know everybody looks at this and goes 256.5 miles. That's insane. But let me make it a little more insane for you. If you went from the center of Huntington, West Virginia, if you just put in a map, Huntington, West Virginia, and it says, okay, you're on this block and that's where you're starting, and you ran to the center of Indianapolis, Indiana, it's 260 miles. So 3.5 miles difference. And so you could go from one point in Indianapolis to one point in Huntington and be right at that 256.5. And that to me is insane.
Yeah.
Because it's a little over 4 hours to drive that. It's about 4.5.
Yeah.
And he ran it in 58.
I tell you what, if you do that, I'll just hand you a water as you pass by my house, because that's you're gonna cruise by Louisville on your way to Indianapolis. That's cool, man. But I ain't joining you. I don't know why anybody. That is just out of my realm of. I can't fathom doing that. I don't even want to drive.
Yeah, man, my back kills me when I get to Indianapolis from a drive. But I'm not wanting to turn this into a 30-minute conversation on this, but things that were unanswered for me is like, do you stop and sleep? And that,
yeah. Does that stop the clock while you sleep?
I think that definitely the clock keeps going. Just don't, that's because they had until Saturday to finish this. The race is still going on, and there were 4 that finished it on that early, and fourth place was actually a female, and she was pushing to be 3rd overall. There was a back and forth. I read many articles on this.
Jeez.
And she broke the record by 7 hours for the female side.
Golly.
But there are still people that are running this right now, and they're like days behind. I mean, think how long it's been since we've heard this.
Just imagine if I entered into this.
Yeah. But do you stop and eat? Do you stop and get a hotel? Do you does somebody just is there for like, hey, here's a good stopping point, so here's a tent that we brought along?
Yeah,
they said that. I was reading the elevation changes, and it's not just running on a road and everything.
Yeah.
They were talking about the elevations, but right now they've had crazy weather, including snow and hail, and this is down in Arizona.
Yeah,
so
jeez,
it's just I can't imagine all the different. I think it was Arizona, but neither here nor there. Running for 58 hours, almost 59 hours.
No doubt.
It's insane.
Insanity.
But I wonder, Caleb Bowen, our current coach on there, he has set some records for some of these. I wonder if that will motivate him to go after that. I think he was in 100 ultra marathon before and set that record for his. I don't know. It'd be interesting.
I tell you what, man, that would be a cool dude to talk to about this whole thing. Like Dan Green would be a really cool dude to talk to, just from the simple standpoint that this is so out of our realm of understanding. It's so far removed from the world of sport that we kind of live in. Man, that would be a really interesting conversation.
Maybe we can get him on the show when he's out of the hospital in July.
Yeah, no kidding. After he's rehydrated and slept, after he's done hibernating from golly.
All right, we're going to move on to the next one, and this is a super cool promotion. But the final homestand next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for Marshall Baseball. $3 tickets. Take your entire family for roughly what you would have spent on a regular ticket. I mean, it was $10 for general admission, and now less than a third of that.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a general admission ticket. Get in there. Going to be some pretty cool things. One is anyone that has donated 110% to the Big Green. If they are upping their donation 110% over the previous year, they've been entered into a drawing, and it's not too late to still do that. But one lucky person is going to throw out the first pitch on the Friday night game, or Friday evening. But cool weekend, cheap. Get yourself to the Jack.
Yeah, this is the way. This is the right thing to do. You can't do this all the time, obviously, but this is the thing to do. I feel like the final series at home. I mean, you just from a knee-jerk reaction, you would think like latest in the year, probably the best opportunity at the best weather, cheap tickets. Man, this is cool. I mean, a family of 4 for $12. $12, dude. I mean, and it's really, really fun. The Jack, there's not a bad seat in the place. It's not big enough to have a bad seat. It's a very intimate setting that is just an awesome venue to watch a baseball game. I've been lucky to have gone there a handful of times, and I've sat all over the place, and the action, you're right on top of the action. I mean, $12, please go to a game at some point, Friday evening, Saturday, something, whatever. Go to a game. Find one of those games. Find 2 of those games. I mean, hell, you can go to 2 and still have paid under $25 for tickets, for a family of 4. For all those folks that have a legitimate gripe that, it's very, very expensive to take a family of 4 to a Herd Athletics event from time to time, this is your opportunity to do that and see something really entertaining. We just talked about how Beals and the boys are setting program records, and this is an awakening of herd baseball. I mean, why? There's a lot of reasons not to go, but $3 tickets is a really great reason to go. I suggest everybody make the trip. If you're local, I mean, I'm not going to tell you to drive 4 hours, spend $40 in gas to pay $3 for a ticket. I'm not going to do that. But this is you got a whole weekend of opportunity to go to spend $3 to see a game. I would do that if I were you.
Number 6, men's and women's soccer season tickets. They're going to be available real soon. So if you are interested, there is actually an interest form that you can fill out, and you can make sure that you're on that list and everything for season tickets. We know that the men's season tickets has sold pretty well over the years. When you're going for national championships, that's just one of those ancillary things that comes with it is attendance and ticket sales. So
yeah,
if you're interested and you've never gotten them before, we encourage you to get women's and men's season tickets. The women's are super cheap to go to. It's just as fun of a time to watch as the men's. So if you enjoy going and supporting Marshall athletics, pick them up.
Yeah, I would tell you, Herd men's soccer, of course, doesn't need sales. They sell themselves. I mean, they don't need us to sell them.
Right.
But, when you're talking about the problem of having an attendance problem where you need more seats, it tells you it's an in-demand ticket. We were lucky to kind of get in on the pseudo ground floor of season tickets several years ago when there were some really good seats available. That's why when we give our tickets away, those folks are in some prime seating. But the women's side is not to be undersold because there is a definite rebuild, almost a rebranding per se, so to speak, for Herd women's soccer. I spent some time few weeks ago when I was in Huntington for the spring game. I happened to run into Coach Rafa Samoz, and we spent 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the Herd alumni banquet shooting the shit and talking about his program and the approach and what's new and all that kind of stuff. And I think we're seeing a corner being turned with the approach to the program and recruiting approach. I think if you're following us on social media, you're definitely seeing a difference in the recruiting style. And I think they're very, very much trying to build something that has a real opportunity to just kind of take off,
Yeah. I think it's right there.
It's right there. And this is a great time for you to get in on prime seats for women's soccer because there are going to be some available at a really competitive price. And competitive is not even the word. They're downright cheap. It's almost too cheap. So take advantage, man. You'll have a great time.
Number 7 and 8, 9, and 10 are all going to be about the transfer portal. So we're just going to hit them up by individual sports, and we're going to start with men's basketball. But Point guard Noah Otshuti has committed to Marshall men's basketball. 6'3" junior from Western University in Canada. He averaged 16.6 points, 2.8 rebounds, 4.1 assists, 45.8% from the field, 33.3% from three-pointers.
Yeah, looks like Corny's definitely got a north of the border recruiting flavor going on here. A lot of folks are going to draw the line and say, okay, this is who is set to play the role that Mingo would have played this year, probably or potentially. Again, as with basketball, you never know until you know. And I still don't think that we're finished, but
Right.
it does bring some levity to the situation for Herd fans being on the back end of what was going to be a brutal situation, right? But you get Spear back, you get a couple of signings, a couple of teammates, and now Otshuti comes in to fill that last kind of pseudo voided guard role.
Mm-hmm.
You're rounding it out, right? You're really starting to get a handle on things. But it never surprised me. Will surprise me if there's like another addition. Even if people say, no, we're done. There's always the chance that you're not done.
No, so I know we're not done because there's some scholarships available, but there are some specific players that have still been in over the past couple of weeks, and we never do any kind of speculation on here. And, there's so many people that visit or get looks that you can't talk about 30 different people that are here, and we might be taking one of them.
Right.
But I do know that there's been a lot of chatter about some others that are here, so I would look for definitely over the next month, but probably over the next 2 weeks, we're probably going to see another addition or maybe two.
Yeah. You just can't close the book. I know there's scholarships available, and that's not what I was getting at. But sometimes there's situations where you're like, you know what, our scholarships are full, we're done, and then you're not done because something happens. So until the daggone ink is dry on everything and the season is basically here, I just never think we're done. But it does feel good to put some of that worry that a lot of fans had, like, oh my God, like, where are we? What are we doing now? Like, we're sunk. We don't have anything, and we never didn't have anything. But you start to rebuild that roster back, and it's taking people off the ledge, which is always a good thing.
Yeah. Number 8 is for women's basketball. We picked up a commitment from Nikaya Chesterfield, 6-foot forward transfer from Tusculum, and averaged 18.6 points, 6.3 rebounds, 2.0 assists, and she was said to be dominant in the paint.
Yeah, I guess this is going to be a multi-positional player because the Tusculum roster listed her as a center, and I even think that when I tweeted about that, I listed her as a center. So it looks like could be a player like you say. You can't really nail down the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 anymore. That's not really a thing like it used to be in the 90s when you had a dedicated big man, and unless that's what you play, that just doesn't hold true anymore. I mean, gee, man, how many times have we seen herd teams at any particular time with 5 guards on the floor? It just depends.
Or at the very minimum 4 guards and a forward that is comfortable from the wing. And I think Julie Fulks's roster and style of play is more suited to show, say, 3 guards, 2 forwards, and have that forward that would have been a 5 or a center on someone else's roster. But to the size difference at Tusculum to here in Division I, I mean, you're looking at 6 foot. That's roughly around what Meredith Mayer is as well. So she may be asked to not be in the paint as much in this offense, and that's why she's listed as a forward. But right now, forward, center, I don't care if they make up a new position. When I hear dominant in the paint, I feel like that's a really good addition.
Yeah, you need somebody that's willing to go down there and like Nate Martin and just and I mean, I don't know what term you want to say, but just just bang underneath
Yeah.
and take the body blows and all that kind of thing and do the dirty work and get the hard points and fight for the rebound. You need that. And, like, let's face it, it's hard to find a 6'3", 6'4", 5, women's basketball player, and if you find them, they're probably pretty highly recruited. It's just tough. So, probably this sport at this level, not the Division I level, but at the Sun Belt level and the hierarchy of the grand scheme of things, it's hard to find. If you can get players like that, then you've got a leg up, so to speak. But excellent addition for Julie Folks, another program that I don't think is remotely finished. So she had a big portal session last year when she got the job, and some of that worked out, some of that didn't. There's some big players that are some big holes that are going to need filled again this year. So, nothing to it but to do it and see how the portal giveth, because it has takeneth away. So let's see how it giveth.
Well, and now we get to, unfortunately, talk about the portal taketh away with number 9. And, men's soccer is not immune.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew that we had already lost Marco Silva. He transferred to Pitt. But quietly, over the last few weeks, we've lost even more. Alexander Sterngard and Sonny Kong, for instance, had entered already. But got word this week that Stefan and GK, who listeners of the Thundercast or viewers of the Thundercast may remember several short weeks ago, was the MVP of the College Spring League for the championship Marshall Thundering Herd. He has already entered the portal. He portaled here from, I think, Long Island University, and was here for the Spring League, and now he's out.
Yeah. So you said the word perfectly. It's quietly, right? Mm-hmm. Because college soccer still in the social media world is pretty quiet as compared to basketball and football and even now baseball, and softball. This is what sucks, right? You want a program that wins, and Marshall wins, and they win a lot, and they win at a high level. And again, you're talking about a national runner-up, and you got to think that there are teams that go, well, where do we need to look to start to try to grab portal players?
Let's back up a truck of money that we have because we're from a big school.
So, and that's the other thing, right? Like, a lot of people think deep-pocketed schools, you think of football, but there's a lot of wealthy alums that love soccer. It's the most popular game on the planet, man. So there are going to be some alums from schools that inevitably their passion lies with soccer, and they want to see their school win. So they're going to come after our players and players from other teams like Vermont and Long Island and all these other things. So it just means that Chris Grassie is doing something right, because he's constantly identifying elite talent across the nation. And now, if we only get them for a year, or maybe not even at all, a spring league session, that's gonna be tough to swallow, because now we're spoiled herd soccer fans and we just expect to win all the time. And then when we lose players, we're just going to reload with other great players because that's what we've seen. But when you go through a session and you're like, oh, we lost 4 guys, we lost 5 guys. This isn't like a football roster where there's 85 guys. This is a much smaller roster. So when you start digging into 3, 4, 5 players that you're losing in a year, that's going to be really, really, really hard to replace. But Chris Grassie's proven that he can identify the talent and then recruit that talent to Huntington to keep us playing at a really high level.
So here's what I think is, we lost Matthew Bell, who everybody knows was just a wonderkind, and I mean, amazing talent. And we did just fine after him because Chris Grassie reloaded and his staff reloaded, and they brought in the players, and Marshall is a brand and a destination and a powerhouse and a new blue blood. in Marshall soccer. We lost players before Matthew Bell got here, and then we brought Matthew Bell. We have been bringing in players, and I have zero doubt in my mind that Chris Grassy will have a solid team take the pitch for that first game in August. Um, I do know that one of the accounts, I don't remember the name, but they listed not, you talked about football and soccer being like off the radar when it comes to these transfer portal things. You would think that you could find a comprehensive list, and you can't.
You can't.
But one reputable source had him as second of the top three players available in the transfer portal right now. So losing in GK and especially bringing him in and thinking that he is going to be, if not the centerpiece, one of the main cogs, and him having the performance that he did in the college spring league, and you evaluated how he played with all the rest of them, and the rest of them played with him, and that sort of thing, and now he's gone. It's tough, but it's not insurmountable, because next man up, let's just go get him.
Yeah. And you made this point before we started, and I want to mention it. This might not always be a situation where a player goes to another college. Mm-hmm. It most of the time probably will be. Yeah. But soccer is, I don't know what to equate it to. It's a lot like, not a lot like, but it's more akin to like baseball in how the farming systems are so massive. Yeah. Right. And the pathways to the professional, the larger leagues, bigger leagues are like that. Mm-hmm. So you don't necessarily have this linear pathway like football where it's, college pro, right? Mm-hmm. It's you can play college, then you can go play for this club and rise the ranks here and go through the farm system here. And you mentioned Matthew Bell, and what did we lose Matthew Bell to? The MLS draft. He didn't go to the portal and hit somebody else, Yeah. So you can't, as a fan, sit here and go, "Oh, great, he entered the portal and now he's going to go to a university." Now, look, I understand you don't enter the transfer portal to go to a semi-pro team. Right. I get that, but I'm just saying there's opportunity there to leave Marshall. When a player leaves, let's take the portal out of it. When a player leaves Marshall, they might not be going to another university. They might just be going to a semi-pro league and trying to find their pathway that way.
Yeah. Our 10th and final of this massive, massive 5 things, 10th thing out of 5 here. We're talking about the football portal. That's what we usually close this with, and we picked up 3 additions recently. Brock Walters, a long snapper coming from Old Dominion, and Al Ashford III was a cornerback from Northern Arizona, and Tony Mathis Jr. from Houston. Now, I've got a little bit about at least those past 2, but what do you have before I chime in with some stuff?
Well, I'd just like to I just wanted to say thanks to our buddies at the Monarchists for giving us a long snapper. We appreciate that. We needed one, and you guys were nice enough to give us one out of the portal. We appreciate that. It's that'll make for another interesting storyline this season. As I just love it when there's that type of thing. It's becoming more and more common. Players transfer within the conference. I mean, geez, do we not know better than anybody that happens now? Yeah. But still, we love the guys over at the Monarchists. They do a great job, and of course, that's definitely not there's no heat behind that comment. That's just another friendly thing. We appreciate you guys hooking us up. We needed one, and now we have one. And no, I'll as you lay out some data points for the other 2, I'll comment.
Well, first on Walters, 6'1", 233. He got injured in 2023, only 6 games in. He was the starting long snapper for punts. And then he was a red shirt for the 2024 season, I think still fully recovering from that injury. So he has 3 years remaining. This isn't somebody that's got only 1 year to play. we're bringing in someone that is a starter at another place, and I've seen plenty of people comment about long snapping. We recently talked to Brett Riffey, a close friend of ours. Corey Dennison was a long snapper here. No one notices the long snapper until he messes up, right? So if you have a good, consistent long snapper, it goes a long way. And he was a starter.
Well, let's talk about something a little more recent, because special teams coordinator coach here now, Jackson White, was part of one of the best trios, the kicking trios that Marshall has had maybe ever. And the long snapper of that trio was Matthew Beardall. Great player, and he was in for the Herd Brothers events, and he was back for the spring game. It was great to see Matthew back around the program. So our special teams coordinator specifically, I mean, all these guys know the importance of a long snapper, but ours specifically was part of what I consider one of the best kicking trios at Marshall. So it's not like he did it somewhere else. And let's also not forget, during the Doc Holliday era, Marshall perennially had the first team all-conference long snapper. We mentioned Beardall before that. It was a guy by the name of Matt Sincata. Why do I know this? Because long snapping matters. That's why I remember these guys' names, And you're right. Good friends of ours played here and were long snappers. And, of course, they have intricate knowledge, know how important it is. I just think a lot of fans, you're right. Like, they don't notice it unless something goes wrong. Right. And when those go wrong, man, they just go really, really wrong. It's just optically bad.
Well, it's already in a bad situation most of the time if you're having to punt, so especially if you're near your side of the field, you're on the end zone, or your opponent's side of the field, I should say. But you're near your own end zone. That's a bad time for a bad snap, but having someone consistent is paramount at that position. So it's not one that we're taking lightly when we talk about a long snapper coming in. It could be the most important thing in any given game.
Right. So now you're seeing the pieces of potentially the new kicking trio over the past couple of weeks through the portal, right?
Lorcan Quinn as kicker.
Yeah, right. You've got your new kicker. You've got your long snapper here, and the final part of the trio is the holder, and who will that be? We don't know, but Jackson White was our holder, and I put a lot of faith in him to find the right dude to complete that triad, right?
And it did specifically say Walters was the starter at punts for long snapping. It didn't say on extra points or field goals, but we don't know his game or anything. I'm just taking that as that was the information that was out there. We'll find out more soon. Next player, Al Ashford III, 6-foot cornerback, 181 pounds, out of Northern Arizona, which is at the FCS level. However, his first 2 years were at Wisconsin, including a redshirt season, and then Utah State before he played at Northern Arizona. So he was recruited and went to Wisconsin. So that puts a little bit different spin on somebody saying, hey, we just picked up somebody from Northern Arizona. Where is that? I think that that makes it a little more exciting of picking up not that you're not going to get good players at the FCS level, but when someone hears that Wisconsin, a perennial contender in the Big Ten, thought that much of him as a cornerback coming out of high school that they brought him in, that should tell you that this guy's a player.
Well, it's not just Wisconsin. That's who he committed to. But if you want to go back and look at the offer list, I mean, now look, this is 4 years ago, whatever. A lot can change in 4 years. I'm not saying anything one way or the other. I'm just saying a lot can change in 4 years. But the offer list was pretty impressive. He ultimately lands at Colorado, and then ends up at Utah State for a year, and then finally at Northern Arizona. I don't know what to make of this, because I don't really know. I don't know anything about Northern Arizona, in their program or whatever. But played 13 games last year, notched 11 tackles. So
I had him at 18 tackles, 14 solo.
Maybe it was maybe that was Utah State I was looking at.
May have been.
Might have been. But anyway, but what I'm saying is, this is not the typical eye-popping stats guy. Maybe he feels a particular skill set that we needed to bolster in the defensive secondary. Maybe I just don't know. I obviously have full faith in what our coaching staff is trying to do, because Tony Gibson and this staff has done nothing to show me that we're just kind of shooting in the dark here. Like, there's a calculated plan, and it's really working pretty good. Like, there's so many outlets and things that are like, Tony Gibson is dominating the portal, and we've seen it. We've talked about it. I think a lot of our fans have seen it. So you've got to think that, okay, this guy fits the bill somewhere, right? Like, Al Ashford fits the bill somewhere. So even though the stats don't blow me away, I try not to get wrapped up on what an offer looked like 4 years ago. It's like, all right, how has it progressed? And he's been a bit of a journeyman that's becoming more and more, I don't know, like it's more prevalent in the game. It's not like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, if you saw a guy that had been at 4 schools or 3 schools. I mean, what's that one quarterback that's been to like 6 schools in 6 years?
He just left Texas State or something, and
well, he was there.
Western Kentucky, and
Tulane, and here and whatever. Yeah, it's like, okay, that's a little off the walls, but 2 or 3 schools now is commonplace.
Yeah,
it's very commonplace.
A little bit about Northern Arizona. They did make the FCS playoffs last year, but they lost in the first round. And as recently as 2021, they beat Arizona.
Okay.
For the first time since 1932, it says. I'm sure they don't play annually, but so not a no-name program.
No, I'm just saying, geez, it's out west and it's FCS. Like, I don't know anything about that.
Well, I'd actually, believe it or not, I'd never heard of them, and I kind of follow the players in FCS, but they've got a decent postseason history.
Yeah.
All right, the final one is Tony Mathis Jr., running back, and he comes from Houston, but he spent a lot of time at WVU. He was there for 4 seasons. He was there for redshirt year in 2019, and then the COVID year for 2020. Didn't play much at all those 2 seasons. He ended up having a great year. 2022 had 562 yards rushing on 135 carries. That's 4.2 per carry, and 5 touchdowns. Against Baylor that year, 163 yards and 2 touchdowns on 22 carries. Transferred to Houston, seemed to be a little banged up in that 2023 season. Mm-hmm. And then 2024 did not play, had an injury. So there's not a lot of recent stats on him, and I think that he was hampered by some injuries and everything. But we've got him for 1 year here. Or actually, he might have 2 years. Might be a
2-year guy.
I think he's got 2 years, believe it or not. Yeah, that he's got 2 years. And Ashford III definitely has 2 years, if I believe that as well, what I read. So I don't know how, but I don't know how he's got 2 years left, if he's only got 1. But if we got him for 1 year, if we got him for 2 years, we have seen, I don't want to say crowded now, but I will say deep in our running back room. I think that we have brought in recently with Williams Turner and bringing in now Mathis Jr., really taken what was a decent deep running back room and added 2 more pieces. And if we're looking at the style of offense that I think that we're going to have under Rod Smith, I think that's a very good thing and maybe dangerous for us.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of what you have to have. First of all, you got to have a bunch of guys that are A, hungry, and B, ready to try to separate themselves. And I don't know that you keep all of these guys, right? I mean, there's a ton of players that are coming in here that can play. I don't know that you'll be able to to keep all those guys more than a year or whatever. But I think you're right as far as Tony Mathis goes. You're seeing a guy that was banged up the last couple of years. Okay, he had a pretty good year in what would it have been 2022?
22.
Pretty promising year. Then you get banged up in 23. Still played in a handful of games. I want to say 11. I think it said 10 games. 10 games in 2023 for the University of Houston. 287 snaps worth of football, and then none in 2024. Okay, so you've basically taken the entire year off, one less full year of abuse put on the body from a player that can absolutely play ball. Here's the thing. I don't think at this point I'm looking at an offense for Marshall that's going to have a 12 or a 1,300 yard back, right? I think you might be looking at an offense that has four guys with 450 or 500 yards of rushing, right?
Yeah.
So you need a lot of guys that are going to be able to pile up yardage for you in different ways. You're going to need the hard yards. You're going to need the slasher. You're going to need the bruiser, and you're going to need the speedster and the shifty guys, right? So you need a little bit of everything. And if you can get all these guys to buy into that, it's like, hey, man, you might not get 1,000 yards, but you might get 550 yards and be a part of a championship football team. What's more important to you, 1,000 yards or winning a championship, right? But the addition of Tony Mathis, I think, is pretty big. This is a guy that's been there and done it in Division I football, and he's done it for a number of years, and he's spent all of his career in the Big 12, and that says something. Says something, because you're going up against the offensive lines of Texas and at that time Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Like, these are legit guys, So it can only help round out the weaponry in the arsenal for the Herd at this point.
I confirm Mathis Jr. is 1 year of eligibility. Ashford is 2 years of eligibility. I had that in my notes, but for some reason on the ThunderCast.Online, which we haven't talked about, on the transfer portal, I left out that he has 1 year of eligibility.
See, I was thinking it was 2, and I was thinking, all right, he redshirted. He must have gotten a medical redshirt, and then the COVID year, that's how we end up at 2. But it doesn't say anything about a medical redshirt.
Yeah, he may have gotten one anyway, because 19 was redshirt, 20 was COVID, so it would start his 4 years, 21, 22, 23, 24. He would have to have last year.
Okay.
I think 24 would have to be that medical redshirt to give him this additional year.
Okay, you're right.
So, but anyway, that wraps up our this week 10 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Ignite.Link.
Well, let's cruise right on in to Around the Herd.
Yeah, we've got a few different things to talk about, but this is always brought to you by Layer 1, so let's get a quick word from them. And now, Layer 1 Solutions, your experts in business connectivity infrastructure, takes you around the herd. JD, we're going to start off with track and field, and the only thing of note to say is they are currently, through Saturday, in the SBC championships. There's a little bit of stuff that's come out with so-and-so reaching the finals and things like that, but I don't really want to talk about something that's going to be outdated by the time this show goes on. So look for us to retweet and put out all this information on the winners, or go to herdzone.com to find out who did what at the SBC championships. Just know that we've got some contenders. We may be bringing home some hardware.
That's right. Yeah, I was just looking as you were saying that, and as of just the most recent, tweet from Herd Track and Field was 3 hours ago as we record, and it was just talking about day 2 about to be underway. So they've not even updated their social medias. Yeah.
Baseball, as Jed and I recorded, the game was going on last Wednesday. But we played WVU in Charleston, Gomart Park, and we came out with a 7-6 victory. Really good game, back and forth. won that game, and then Twitter exploded with
How Twitter explodes.
with a bunch of WVU asshats, you know. But
one of these days, I will learn my lesson to not say anything ever about that stupid school because they just come out of the woodwork. And I always making a point to see who it is that's saying things. Like I click the little profile picture and I'm like, oh, so you're afraid to be a real person. You have one follower or you have, whatever. So I know now that this is not a pat on my back, our back at all. But I know that just my response gives those accounts a platform and a voice. So the best way to tackle that is to kill them with silence, because I think that more than anything else drives them crazy. But before you move on and talk about what's next, I want to talk about what was happening during that game. I'd been watching on my phone. And my wife decided that we should order pizza. So I ordered a pizza, and I waited, drove down to go pick it up, and I was sitting in the Domino's by the house, and it was the freaking bottom, the last half of the last inning, and I'm sitting here watching like this, and I'm trying to just be cool about it. And the wild errant throw happens, and I yelled out as loud as I could, man. And all, like the record screeched to a halt in Domino's, and they all looked at me all freaking crazy, and I'm like, my bad. Yeah, like I could not hold it in. I just was not expecting an errant throw, and that's how the game was going to end. And man, I just belted out as loud as I could, and the guy was sitting next to me was like, what the is wrong with this guy, and I'm like, man, my bad. I was watching a baseball game, so the herd fandom it knows no limits. I just couldn't help myself. I was locked in to that game. That was a good one.
My final thing about that is nothing about the game, but the Twitter aftermath. And I didn't engage them in response like you did, but I did tell the only guy that said something to me. I just said, buddy, I'm busy and I don't have time to get my crayon out to try to get you to understand something. So he just left me alone. We ended up, though, losing the series at ODU 2-1. We won on Friday 11-4, then lost 5-4 Saturday, 8-2 on Sunday. Had some real momentum going, 7 wins in a row, maybe 7 was at ODU or 7 going to ODU. I can't
7
remember.
Going into that
so
series.
We won 8 in a row, but then dropped 2, and now we have a chance to get right back on track. We're traveling to Georgia State for a weekend series, Friday at 6 p.m., Saturday at 2 p.m., and Sunday at 1. And then next Tuesday at 6 p.m., we will be at Virginia Tech. So
and then $3 tickets.
And that will finish the season. So we've got 7 games left in the regular season. Really need to do some mashing, really need to have those young pitchers step up and get some wins, because man, in that ODU series, it's crazy to think about. I believe it was the Saturday game, it may have been the Sunday game, but had we won, we would have been in sole place of like 5th.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And we were in 10th.
Yeah.
It's that much of a log jam here. You've got the elite that are ranked in the top 25. And then after that, it's a bunch of people jockeying for position in the conference, which is going to help quite a bit for that seeding. We really, really, really need to have a good weekend series with Georgia State.
Yeah, I know. The conference series is our paramount right now. I mean, I want to, it'd be great to go in there and sweep both remaining series, but I would settle for winning the series, because it's all about wins right now. It's all about wins right now. I don't care about it being pretty. I don't care about what it looks like. I don't care how we do it. It's just about gutting out some wins and putting some separation. That was a really good term. And being the big Lebowski fan that I am, you said it's a log jam. And I was thinking, you don't want to be Carl Hungus in Logjam, and you want to separate and get the hell out of there and at least secure a decent spot, a spot. That's how tight the Logjam is. You could go from, a really decent slot seed in the tournament to not being in the tournament. So you got to be winning some games here. And they know that. We all know that. But it's just like, man, I hate these sort of situations. I would like to at least have the safety net of knowing you're in. Now, where are you going to land? And you don't know that at this point. We'll obviously know a hell of a lot more, hopefully, at the end of the weekend. But for right now, man, it's like still touch and go.
And how good has this team been this year? This could have been a thing, but it was already a log jam in the 5 things.
Mm-hmm.
But we are one of 4 teams in the Sun Belt to have 25 wins. That's Marshall, Troy, Coastal Carolina, and Southern Miss. And when this was posted, it was previous to any midweek games. So, if someone was at 24 wins going into the midweek, we might have more than that. But we were the 4th team to get to 25 wins. And we have 4 quad 1 wins. Texas State has 5. Marshall and Southern Miss both have 4.
Yep.
So until some more of these games are played right now, we are right there with everybody else. Texas State's had a really good season, so has Southern Miss. We won the series against Southern Miss. It's been a really good season, and you see where we're at and knowing that we're right there to take that next step.
Well, look, man, I talked about this with Coach Beals. Remember when we did the season preview and I asked him, like, did he feel like they were, like I use the term turning the corner again, because we talked about the campaign from last season and how it was not very good. And he knew that. I mean, but you got to start from somewhere. You can't expect to come in and compete at the top level of this baseball conference immediately. And we've heard Coach Beals say it. We've heard Spears say it. We've heard a number of baseball folks say it. Like, really, in the Sun Belt Conference, if you can land in the top 4, you've more often than not got a legitimate shot at some postseason play, like after the SBC tournament.
Yep.
So do we want to win the conference? Yes. Yes, you do. But ultimately, you also just want a shot at a postseason tournament. And you do not have – this is not a one-bid league. That's the thing.
Nowhere near.
That's the thing. So if you can become competitively, consistently in the top third of this league, you've got a legitimate shot of some postseason opportunities. So it was about building a foundation, and he went out and recruited some great young players that are probably – some of them are paying dividends now, like guys like Clint Moak, right? But you've got youngsters that are going to be playing a larger role as they develop from high school players into this college level player. But to be where we are, I think a lot of people would, like at the beginning of the year, they put the herd in the basement and we're like, they're not going to, that's an easy win, like they're not going to do any damage. They're not going to make any noise. And Beals has proved that that's wrong. 25 wins, one of 4 teams in the conference to do that. Quad 1 wins. You beat ranked teams this year, several of them.
4, I think.
There's a lot of things that you can point to and go, okay, that's a data point in a positive direction. That's a data point in a positive direction. And as you're learning to win and as you're building a program, of course there's going to be those data points that are like, well, that was a step back. But you're going to have that because you're building a program. You're building a winning program. You expect to lose some games you shouldn't lose. I mean, you don't expect to, but it's going to happen, right? So I look at the things like, okay, like going on the road or going on a neutral site and beating a ranked team, that's a big deal. If Herd football did that, people would be doing backflips,
right?
But it's baseball and you play 50 games a year and it gets lost in the shuffle when you do that. I think there's a lot of momentum and a lot of positivity surrounding this baseball program. And I didn't get to do this show with you guys when the news broke about there's going to be a change in athletic director. But I think whoever that new athletic director is, if they keep an investment in baseball, if they keep attention on baseball, that this herd team has, this herd program has the legitimate opportunity to become one of those top third of the conference perennial players, man. And that's really just where you want to be. And every now and then you might capture yourself a Sun Belt Conference championship. And as long as you're playing past the regular season, that's really what it's all about in this game, in that game.
Let's talk about softball, and that will finish us up.
Okay.
Going into that final series, it was against Georgia State, and you're looking at where they may finish. They had a really decent shot due to the tiebreaker of getting the number 1 overall seed. Mm-hmm. They took care of business in a way that you can't really even describe. First of all, before the series even started, they had to change the games due to the weather that was coming up, and they didn't get the Friday game in before having to postpone it until the next day. So that put a triple header on the plate for Saturday. Mm-hmm. I got to go to a little bit of it, but not all of it because kids. They swept Georgia State by winning 11-3 in 5 innings in the first game, 10-2 in 5 innings in the second game, 14-0 in 5 innings in the third game, which had a massive rain delay in there while they're doing senior night, while they're trying to have their post game end of the year meal with the families and the players and everything, trying to get all that in, and they have to finish this game because of the implications on the seeding. Mm-hmm. So what a wild Saturday game it was, or Saturday day it was. But they took care of business. They ended up being the number 2 seed. I want to talk about the tournament, and then I want to go back about some stats about the seniors.
Okay.
So they entered in number 2 seed. They had to go up against Coastal Carolina. They faced the pitcher of the year, Nicolette Picone, that for the 4th time. Game 1 against them, she blanked them 2-0. Game 2, we got to her early. She was out 1 2/3 innings. And then game 3, she came back. We lost 5-3, even though we got to her a little bit better. She had 2 wins over us this year. Mm-hmm. She's a lefty. We have a lefty-dominated lineup, and it was just a matchup nightmare. They jumped out to a 5-0 lead because of a walk, a double, a couple of errors, things like that, and all of a sudden we're looking at trailing 5-0 in the third inning. Mm-hmm. We come back, score a couple of runs, and that's it. After the third inning on, we just got shut down. We shut them down, back and forth. Great defensive plays by both teams, but we lose 5-2 and we get bounced because it's single elimination in softball.
Yep.
So end of the season, get your thoughts. Then I have some stuff on the seniors from that senior day.
Well, right out of the gate, the single elimination tournament is brutal, right?
Because it's tough, man.
That's exactly what the razor's edge is of the daggone single elimination. You get the wrong matchup, and the herd happened to get a matchup with the pitcher of the year that has kind of owned this team, a little bit this year. Pitched really well against the herd, and it just didn't work out for him. And that is heartbreaking for this team to snatch that number 2 seed, go into the tournament with a lot of momentum, and finish much higher than the preseason alluded to. Again, I think it's a little bit of that gatekeeping type thing. They just want to say, well, you're not that good, so we're going to put you middle to low middle of the pack, and we'll just see what you do.
Yeah.
But what a great season overall. I mean, this is the team that ended Louisiana's series win streak, right? Sun Belt Conference series win streak. This is the team that, they had to reinvent themselves from the get-go with a lot of portal entrants and new players coming out of the high school ranks. And we didn't know what we had. And let's be honest, even the most hardcore Herd softball fans, of which, yes, there are some guys, still probably had questions. You might think, oh, I knew they were going to be good. But that's just the fan talking, because nobody really knew how this was going to work out. And we talked about this a little bit ago. This was a team concept team, man. Like, they were a very synergistic in how they were built. Each player needed each other player to accentuate what they did. We didn't have the league leader in home runs, the league leader in stolen bases like we've seen in the past. We just didn't have the utterly dominant pitcher that you could count on every time she was in the circle to get you a win and just shut down an opponent. We had those performances from all of our pitchers, but you didn't have the one to step in there and know, okay, this is an automatic win. Like, Friday's a win, no matter what. So to come from all of that, mesh as a group, develop, it speaks to what this coaching staff does. It speaks to the fabric of this team and this program. It speaks to the senior leadership of this program. And to go to that tournament as the number 2 seed kind of said a whole lot to me about the moxie and the guts that surround this program. Then to be eliminated was just like the knife in the heart. Like, one game and done. You're out. Like, good for Coastal Carolina, man. Good for them. I hope they go on and make more noise and whatever. But this was just brutal way to end it. Mm-hmm. That said, hell of a lot of momentum heading in to the 2026 campaign. Hell of a lot of momentum. I don't know that you see it because, by and large, I operate our Twitter account every day, and I'm not exaggerating. Every day I get tweets kicked to our algorithm, our timeline, from high school prospects or travel ball prospects that are tweeting at Herd softball. Right? I don't have any notifications set up to where I see everything that's tagged. That's not even a thing, but it gets pushed to our timeline. So, I click on the profile and I'm like, okay, what's this all about? Who's this player? And let me tell you, like, the amount of talent that is either coming to visit or is being heavily recruited by Herd softball puts you in a really good frame of mind about what this team is going to look like next year and the year after that and the year after that. And that doesn't even count the damage that is going to be done in the transfer portal. Great season by Herd softball. Heartbreaking way to end it. My heart goes out to the girls that have been there with us since we started this show, right? Mm-hmm. Riley and Bub. They've been there like since we started the show, and good people, good players, good ambassadors to the Herd, but great families. We got to know both of their parents. I mean, of course, I think a lot of them are still going to be around. You just don't, you play and you're done, but man, I hated to see them, their careers end like that. But
well, so let's talk about them real quick. This is a tweet that I put out after that Saturday. Mm-hmm. But Riley Lucas, Brooklyn Ulrich, who was walking as a graduate, but still has a year of eligibility left. But for all intents and purposes, she was there on senior day. I'm including her stats. Bub Faringa, Kasia Parks, and Lindsey Henson went 16 for 35 with 4 doubles, 1 triple, 3 home runs, 18 RBI, 14 runs scored, and 11 walks on that Saturday triple header. Oh, and Bub Faringa got a win in the circle. So if they didn't have their fingerprints all over that series, and it's not like there weren't contributions from Diamond Leslie, Chandler Hoskins, Haley Adkins, Paige Simpson, Abby Darnley, all these different players, and Jules King, all the different players on the mound, those in the dugout, team effort, but those 5 really stepped up. Lindsey Henson got her first home run and crushed it. And just seeing the home runs, seeing the 14-0 final game, you know, and how memorable it's going to be, not just because you won 14-0 in 5 innings, but that you had to go back out because the monsoon turned into just a rainstorm, you know, enough for you to go get the game in. And you see the parents there in their rain gear, you know, watching their final regular season, final home game of their kids. And what a moment, what a weekend, what a season. Hate that we got bounced there. But that was a pitcher that we did not want to run into. And you know, we had struggles earlier in the year against her, as did everyone in the league. You know, she was the pitcher of the year for a reason, but does not take away from the overachieving according to what they were ranked in the preseason. Ninth, I think.
Yeah.
Ninth of 13, maybe. And finishing second and right there to be first. And, you know, you had the breaking of Louisiana's streak during this season. You had that final sweep that was memorable. You had all these different series wins against everybody from the same teams that all the coaches had predicted would finish above you.
Right.
Great year. Would have loved to have seen a Sun Belt Conference championship, obviously. Would have loved to have played for it, obviously. Still doesn't take away from what a special season it was.
No, it does not. And the goal is always going to be a championship, always. Like, the expectation is the same for me for every Herd athletics program, regardless of sport, regardless of past success, current success, whatever. It's a championship. That's what we play for at Marshall. That's what we hope to play for, and that's what we want to win. We'll get there. We'll get there. This is an incredibly competitive softball conference, just like it's an incredibly competitive baseball conference, right? And our softball team they're more than holding their own in the Sun Belt Conference. It's just, can you get over the hump, right? Can you, we were really close to notching that, getting that first Sun Belt Conference championship a couple of years ago, and then it was a coaching change and a little bit of a rebuild and revamp, and now you see in Morgan Zirkle's second year, her fingerprints, like you said, are really all over this team now, and it's got a different vibe, and there's some momentum, and it really feels like they're not just headed that way. It really feels like they're sprinting that way to that being that number one overall seed and being that that dominant team. You got to find consistency for all the players that are on this team. A lot of them are newcomers to the Herd or just young in general, and have the sky's the limit for a lot of these players as far as their development goes. And I just one more time, I don't know if Brooklyn will be back for another year. We see this in football a lot, right? They walk for senior day and then they come back and play, and so it's the same situation. But she's a graduate, so she has an opportunity to be a grad transfer if she wants to take it. I hope she doesn't, because, we love her in Huntington, and Herd softball fans love her in Huntington, and she's a star here. And I hope she decides to finish out her career and finish out as a Herd all-time great, right? She can do whatever she wants to do. I'm not trying to tell her otherwise. I'm just saying, we'd love to have her back in green and white for one more year, and in an era where players transfer a lot, and being a 4 or 5 year player at one program is not a thing, or finishing out. You got one more year, and maybe transfer, see what it's like. I don't know. I hope she stays, but for those that have exhausted eligibility, Bub and Riley and all the girls that we've been following and reporting on for the last number of years, it has been an absolute pleasure to watch them play, to get to know their families, get to know them a little bit. And I really hope they stay close to the program, because we've seen that with other sports. It matters. Your alumni matter. The Herd brothers, they'll tell you that, man. It feels really good to be back around and feel welcomed around Herd football again. And there's zero reason we can't have Herd sisters, around the softball program. For all the programs and all of our women's sports, I feel like softball is the one that could really champion that effort and make that a big deal. And I hope that this crop of seniors stays close to the program because they have an impact. They've been impactful in their playing days, and they can continue to be impactful just by being around the program and talking to these newer players and continually preaching, this is how Herd softball is. Just like the brothers talk about, this is what Herd football is all about.
Well, to piggyback off that, I'm going to use my parting words during this Around the Herd softball segment. And I want to read something that was posted by Riley Lucas earlier today. And this is someone that was a little sister to the big sister, little sister program that Herd softball does, and then got to go on to be that big sister as a local player here that had always dreamed of it. But here's her own words, and this is going to take about 2 minutes. Dear softball, it's hard to put into words how much of an impact you've had on my life. From the first time I picked up a glove to the last time I laced up my cleats, you have been so much more than just a game to me. You've been a teacher, a safe place, and a constant. Thank you for teaching me lessons I could never have learned anywhere else. Lessons about hard work, resilience, patience, and heart. You've pushed me, humbled me, and shaped me in ways I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. You showed me how to get back up after falling, how to believe in myself when it was hard to, and how to fight for something with everything I have. Thank you for giving me the gift of leadership and the chance to be a role model for the younger generation, for those little girls with big dreams and even bigger hearts. It means more than words can describe to know I've had the chance to inspire them just like others once inspired me. Whether it was a high five after a game, a picture, or simply a smile from the stands, those little moments reminded me why I fell in love with this game in the first place. You've shown me how powerful it is to lead with kindness, to be someone others can look up to, and to carry myself in a way that leaves a lasting impact. Thank you for giving me some of the best friends a girl could ever ask for. These are the girls who have seen me at my best and worst, who've laughed with me until we cried, and held me up when things got hard. Softball didn't just give me teammates through the years, but my forever people. Thank you for the countless laughs, the tears, the unforgettable memories, and all the little moments that made this journey so incredibly beautiful. Most of all, thank you for helping shape me into the person I am today. Although you are not who I am, you have made me who I am through the experiences you have given me. I am stronger, braver, more determined, and more compassionate because of you. Love always, number 13.
That's pretty good, man. That nobody can make light of that. And that just proves that, some of these athletes cherish their time, that their playing time, like the sport that they play. It's not just a game, and we talk about this as fans, like, you get life lessons and you deal with adversity and all of the cliches. She just articulated all of that way better than I would ever be able to, on a podcast. I think that's so very cool, and she was so really so easy to root for. She checks all the boxes of everything. The local player, the little sis who Shonda said, you can play here one day, you can be here, and I saw what Selena had posted about that, and Riley was around for Shonda, and then Jen Steele, and then Megan, and then Morgan, right? All these changes. And it was, Shonda telling her as a little sis that you can play here one day if, you just work hard enough. And, as a little girl, you hear that and you're like, wow, maybe I can, and then Jen Steele gives her the scholarship offer out of high school. And then Megan honors it. And then Morgan honors it. And I mean, what a storybook Marshall career, just a story, a storybook Marshall story. Great gal. And one that'll be missed. I mean, dang, how cool is it just for no other reason to just be able to do the O'Reilly thing, Like
Yeah.
for if no other reason, how cool is it to that'll be missed, man. But what a great tribute to the game of softball by the player in her own words. That was really awesome.
Yeah, and I almost got teared up a couple times. You may have heard it in my voice, but I was picturing my youngest daughter that got to be Batgirl on at least one occasion, maybe two. But she recently told us that she wants to be a softball player when she grows up.
Well, good.
So, but it's because of going to the games, the limited times that I've been able to go, and they didn't stab somebody in the stands. But
well, you like that grit in a player. Like you really want that killer instinct in your player.
What Evelyn definitely has it, but a lot of that, she wanted to wear a number 13 this year, and it's due to a tie with Taylor Swift. It's Taylor's favorite number, I guess. My wife told me, and she wanted to be number 13, but that was also exciting to her that was Riley's number, and that I knew her parents, and that we sat out there, near where Joey sits beyond the outfield fence when we go to the games and things. So she just thought that was super cool. She didn't get number 13 because we were going to get maybe a side-by-side photo or whatever, and that was just going to make her day. But I'm really going to miss seeing Riley play. I'm going to miss Kasia. I'm going to miss Bub. I'm going to miss Lindsay Henson. Lindsay was assigned to Evelyn when she was the Batgirl the first time. It's like Morgan told her, "Hey, watch this girl for us." Yeah. So there's just memories about all of them, and just what a season. We talked about it a lot, but that's the end of Around the Herd.
It is. Well, before you give your final words, I didn't want to gloss over the other seniors that are departing, because I've been a big Kasia Parks fan. I always identify with the center fielder. It's just, and she's given me so many personal highlights to watch, the catches and the plays, and the walk-offs and all these things, the clutch moments. So I don't want any of these players to think that I haven't taken notice or I didn't appreciate it, because I did. I do. But it sucks. I wish some of these players a lot of times you wish they never had to graduate. I mean, there's a lot of players that I wish never had to graduate. But across all the sports, I mean, I'd still line up to watch John Elmore suit up for the Herd right now. You know what I mean? Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't pay every extra buck they have to go see Randy Moss catching touchdowns for the Herd? I don't think you'd find a fan that would. But anyway, special team, special program, and of course, they're always going to be near and dear to us for how they were the very first program to kind of accept us into the Herd Athletics universe, and can really get us kick started too. So I'm done. Take us out of here.
Whether you see us at the Cam, whether you see us at the Joan, or whether you see us for $3 tickets at the Jack, be there. No matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, "Go Herd."
Go Herd. It is the ThunderCast. We will see you next week. Later.